afternoon, everybody. Welcome to each and every one of our Merry Marvelites, every member of the Mighty Marvel Marching Society. Thank you for being here. And as always, I'm Christian Bladt. Right over there is Katie Hampton. Hello, Katie.
Hello.
Representing in a nice X-Men 97 shirt. And of course, down there in the center square is our pal Nate Miller. Nate, great to see you. And we'll see if he's hearing us, the one, the only, David Brody.
I'm here. Nothing like a full system reboot can't fix.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're using the built-in computer mic. And I think I'm hearing myself echo. So all kinds of fun right there. We'll give a Brody chance for a reset on top of the reset. I want to start diving into episode 4 of Agatha All Along, and I want to start with Katie. You sent me a text about a little bit less than an hour ago, and I want you to share what your text was.
Listen, I had a show late last night. I watched it last night. I had this thought that I thought I would send this text at a more reasonable hour to Christian. I said, I fear that we lose Nate after this episode.
Well, he might not be the only one after this episode. So Nate, I want to start right there. Could this be the episode we lose you from our little family for a few weeks? Are you going to go on sabbatical to walk the earth like Kane from Kung Fu?
There was definitely a point mid musical number where I was like, "What am I doing with my life?"
You know,
how
it's great
am I
when you
spending
have
my time?
existential dread.
Yeah, I don't know. I like to think that I have matured enough to a point of where I can understand that sometimes things are just not for me, and that doesn't mean that they're bad. They just may not be for me, and this is certainly something that is not for me. If I'm trying to be generous, I think it was done well. It sounded good. I just personally was like just waiting for it to be over. As soon as I saw the 70s aesthetic, I was like, oh, they're going to sing. It's going to be musical. And then they started handing out instruments, and I was like, please, no. And then it just kept going. It kept going. I don't know. The demon stuff was kind of cool. It's nice that Aubrey Plaza is back.
Yes.
I'm hoping that this is the worst of it, you know? Like, if I can make it through this, then, like, the rest of the show should be easy breezy. Like, because they won't do another musical episode, right? Like, this.
Well, I didn't quite have this thought the first time there was singing in this show, which I think that was episode 2. But then after this time, I put it all together because I remember thinking, Zahir Zamata, whose name I've said terribly, I thought, I was like, oh, that's an interesting casting. And then I remembered that she sang a lot on SNL. And I'm like, oh, so she was good for what they wanted. And also they're going to make her sing. And Nate, I'm sure, I will say right now, I don't know anything about future episodes. This is not the last time we're going to get any singing on this show. I feel like there's no way. We've had 2 songs in 4 episodes. We've got
none
5
of them
more.
making Patti LuPone the lead singer. Like,
oh, well, you think that they're getting there, Katie?
I mean, I don't know what they're doing. The fact that they keep putting her in the background is insane to me.
Look, there's only so much money in the budget. Okay.
I understand. I do. But like putting her on the finger symbols? Come on.
Yeah. And let's see. Daniel Drew says easy breezy, beautiful cover, Nate. Oh, so yeah, cover. Yeah, I see what you're going for, like the commercial. Brody.
Yeah.
I hear myself echo every time I talk coming from your square, but apart from that, I wanted to get your overall thoughts. But why don't I let you correct that, and we'll go check in.
It's already fixed. I don't know why it's still doing it. Everything's right.
Okay. I mean, you can say everything's right, but does that mean that everything's right?
Is it still wrong?
No, it might be now. Yeah, it's better.
Is it good now?
All right.
You're great.
Yeah, this is good.
Okay, so
this is what people tune in for.
Yeah. So as a Mets fan, watching the Mets game last night, the
No,
Mets
wrong-
were up 3. No,
no,
it's
no,
not.
no,
It's
no, no,
not.
no.
You'll
We're
understand.
talking about Agatha episode.
Yeah, no, the Mets were up 3-2, and they looked like they were going to
No one
win.
wants to hear about that.
Hold on, it's important to this. And then the other team hit a home run to put them ahead and ruin my energy, and just my whole world came crashing down, and a sunken vibe fell over me, and I felt like my world was collapsing last night watching the Mets game. And then I put on Agatha.
Oh,
And when they started singing, I had the same feeling as when I watched my Mets team lose. That awful feeling like the show just lost. The show just lost to the Brewers. Where did the Rio? Luckily, Rio plays drums. Luckily, they had a bass player. Luckily, they never showed her playing the drums because she couldn't even fake it. It was what did I say in the first episode? I will tolerate this show until I go into a couple of houses, and then they get back on the path, and that's it. No more houses. Again. Remember, Force Awakens was scene for scene. Star Wars, you're like, well, it worked, but it was scene for scene, right? Every episode is scene for scene. They do a little walking. They go into a house. They read the note. There's a spell. They don't know what the spell is. They find out. Then they got to sing. Then MacGruber's got to come in and come up with a concoction. And it's the same episode.
So what you're
Next
saying
week, I'm just going to watch this episode.
What you're saying is that you felt like Agatha all along was 7 games up with 17 left to play. And
Yes.
then by the time this episode ended, you felt like, okay, now I just have to go home. Is that, can I connect those dots for you?
Yeah, so I made
Brody?
a reference to last night's Met game. I'm terrible.
No, I know,
You
and
made
I
a
went
reference
back. I went
to
back 17
2007.
years.
Yeah,
I wanted to twist the knife and hurt it a little more. It's fine. That was
It
It was really just for Brody. And if Eric Connor was here, he would have appreciated that. But whatever.
It seemed like an episode, like one of the last episodes of season 4 of Stranger Things, where I just needed the kid to start playing Metallica as the bat person is flying around the room.
The music would have been better if it was straight.
The music would have been better. It was just, look, I give points to the creative writing of the music, the composition of the song, the way it was performed, the way they rewrote it. It was all well done. It's like watching the CW. It's not what I'm here for. Give me some CW, but mostly like adult content. And it's like watching the twin girls from Acolyte sing a song from the 70s. That's what this is, hard, like little kids. Everybody's like a child. I'm with Nate. For those reasons, dog, I'm out.
Well, I don't know if Nate's not necessarily with you, but
No,
you guys are.
I mean, the overall vibe. I'm with Nate on the outside of the house looking in.
Right.
As far as we both left for different reasons, but we're still out in the cold.
Nate's like, hey, this is a party of one. All right, there's one chair here. Just let me sit here. I'm gonna keep to myself. Yeah, I watched this episode last night, and again, I went with my trend of folding laundry while I watched this show, and then when I was done, I fell asleep, so I had to go back and rewind about half an hour of it.
Which was the entirety of the episode.
Yeah, pretty much as it turned out to be. Yeah. I was like, oh, they're in a house. Katie.
Yeah.
Do you have a different outlook on this episode than those of us who are naysayers? Are we raining on your parade, Katie?
No, you're not.
Okay.
I will say this was not my particular favorite episode so far. I felt it was fairly predictable. When I saw that the leaves turned red, I was like, okay, this is Alice's story. We're going on to the protection magic, and we're probably going to do some singing. And then as soon as they got into the house, I was like, yep, we're going to do some singing. I love that we got more Rio, and very excited because I feel like they're throwing some more obvious hints out of who she actually is. And obviously, there's a lot of discussion around like what she might be or what her longevity in the Marvel universe might be. Cool.
Sure.
Hasn't been stated in the show yet, so like we don't have to go there. But I really like what they're doing with her character, and I love what Aubrey's doing. I think she's incredible. Yeah, not my favorite episode. I personally wasn't a big fan. I liked their version of the song in the second episode. I kind of had a hard time believing that this was such a hit song that it created a cult following. But I'm also not a music person, and I know there was a lot of shout outs to like in-depth music things that were really cool for people who are very into music. I am a terrible singer, so I never got into it. I will say that I loved the song in the second episode. The song this time around, great, Ivan. I'm really glad that you loved this version of the song. It felt rough to me personally.
Well, this is how Brody and I went down the rabbit hole that I'll try to avoid this time, because people might think like, why would they have possibly on this show invoked Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip? But I'm going to mention it again because the idea that this was the cutting edge comedy show that everybody watched, and then when you see sketches from it, you're like, these are the least funny, least original sketches I've ever seen. So then they have this song that's supposed to be huge, and I'm like, I mean, maybe going on at like 2 p.m. at one of those like best of the 70s bills, you know, where, you know, REO Speedwagon does like just the greatest hits album and then they leave or whatever, you know. No, I find it a little hard to believe that this song was that huge. It's tough because it's only the running time of a song, you know, 3 to 4 minutes. And, you know, they try to have plot around it. Things are going bad. Like, no, you have to sing better, which, you know, I mean, there are bands that I wish felt that way, that while they were on stage, there was somebody yelling, no, put your heart into it. It would be great.
Sing like a witch.
Yeah. But then as it was like really those 3 to 4 minutes, there was no coming back from it at that point. Then it turned into like, I got to try to stay awake. When is this going to be over?
I mean, like when they started with the backwards record, I was like, okay, I understand where you're going for it with this, with the Satanic Panic and all that history. Thought that was interesting and cool. But then when they were like, no, we have to recreate the song, I was like, well, yeah, we knew that because the music instruments are everywhere. But then when Patty was just like, I play the finger cymbals or whatever they're called, I was like, Patty plays everything. Patty sings everything. Like, why are we I mean, I understand budgets, things like that. I get it. I really do. But also, it's freaking Patti LuPone. What are we doing here?
Yeah, no, it's almost like you look back and you go, oh yeah, Dave Grohl just played drums in Nirvana. Not all the other stuff that he knows how to do and does really well. I want to give a shout out to, this is the website Gizmodo. They had a headline that I will not steal. I give them full credit. Agatha all along bravely asks, what if the Partridge Family fought demons? And I think that, look, you take that concept, I'm in for at least 13 episodes. I don't know about beyond that.
And they kind of hit that with just the house, I guess. The house was very, you know, Brady Bunch, you know, but other than that, like other than the costumes, you know, I felt like some of the reference polls were a little either on the nose or a little too far into the mystery. That was like, it was a little hard to pay attention to what was going on. Also, the generational curse was interesting, but why did it only go after Sashir Zameda and Patti LuPone, right?
Yeah. Daniel has a thought, by the way. Perhaps she has a big number in the finale and they're saving it for it. Look, if she's going to die prematurely at any point, which I feel like all the other witches are probably going to die at some point, I think that would be probably when we get a big number. And having seen video of her, I just hope that when she does her big number, there's no one sitting there on their cell phone, because she will let you know how she feels about that if you go to a Broadway show and you have your cell phone out while she's singing. So watch out. And I'm sorry, but I was really distracted by this. I love Ivan Soda. Partridge Family is an old show, very old. How old is it? Well, it's Brody old. That's how old is. Sorry, Brody. You were if Eric was sitting there, I would have said him. Just you have to know, just by default, that was going to be sent your way. But
the show is older than me by a lot.
But you were always You were always a big fan of Danny Bonaducci's post Partridge Family work, as I think most of us were. But yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, look, they clearly want to have this hybrid in here. And by the way, what I was looking this up and see if they would just list the episode titles before I click on it. Nate, we would have all been prepared because the title of the song is "If I Can't Teach You" / "Let My Song Reach You." Then before I even started it, I'd be like, oh, they're singing again, aren't they? Now I need to look up the lyrics to this damn song so that I can really know, like, is there going to be a Song in My Heart episode title or something like that?
Well, this one is from the Lorna version too,
Mm-hmm.
so it's
Okay.
they're all its titles seem to be from the song, but apparently not just the original version is on the table. It could be the alternate version as well. That may just be this episode, but
Right. Okay. So this is
Which makes sense.
The Don't Cry on Use Your Illusion 2 with the alternate lyrics. All right. I just have to put everything in terms I can follow. All right.
Yes.
I need to kind of rate it in a little bit. Let me ask Brody, what did work for you? Is there anything in this episode where you were like, all right, I feel bad about the baseball game, but Agatha at least delivered on this?
I thought Rio coming out of the ground was pretty good special effects. It reminded me of Scarlet Witch coming through the mirror in Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
They're dropping breadcrumbs about who the kid is, and
And who
I,
he
I,
isn't.
I only know who Rio might be because Funko Pop again released the toy early.
Yeah.
Which there's got to be something in the contract with Marvel that they got to stop with the Burger King toys and the McDonald toys that give away. Don't have plots like that if you're going to have toys like that.
well, those leaks have also been wrong in the past too. So there was also a leak that said there was a Mephisto toy coming with the WandaVision stuff, which never happened. So
yeah, but this was actually shown. The toy was shown, and hasn't been denied. So I'm going that this one.
I mean, there's no value in denying it. I do know what you mean. It's,
and her name translates to River of Life, which seems like an ironic name to call her, considering. Also, I'm disappointed that you do a 70s episode and you have the reason I was looking at my phone, by the way, is I was looking up Deborah Jo Rupp's real name. She's from that 70s show. They should have put her in that 70s show hairstyle and clothing and had her in this episode. Maybe change the order so she could be alive for it. Seemed like a natural fit. The fact that she wasn't in the 70s episode was also a bummer for me. So, I thought the special effects are good. The demon looked pretty good, I guess.
Yeah, I agree on that. Yeah. That stuff, I guess they balance it out with another stuff. Yeah, Ivan seems to be very, Ivan Soto in the chat seems to know an awful lot about Rio's character and the leak, and I think it's what Brody's talking about. And I think if I knew what these leaks were, I probably would mention it. But since I don't, it's easy for me to avoid it. But to that point, why do they keep leaking stuff like that? I mean, to Disney's credit, they were a full year behind the curve on the production of Baby Yoda / Grogu toys because they were like, no, we can't have anyone making these toys because then they're going to know that what's in that thing anyway. Oh my God, it's a Baby Yoda. None of us would have had that moment. So there are times where you need to do that. There's TV shows where it's like you see a name in the credits and you're like, oh, I guess they're in this episode. All right. Thanks for ruining everything.
I don't think that these mysteries are something that's going to be an end of season reveal, especially with how heavy handed the hints were in this episode. And we're only on episode 4. I think, I think the revelations will be coming soon. And even if Christian, if you haven't seen the leaks, I would be curious to pick your brain about it. But I feel like it's hard for me to know because I have seen it. But I feel like even if I hadn't seen it, if you're paying attention to any of the subtext, especially in this episode, it becomes blatant. Exceedingly obvious who the person is.
It does make it interesting because it feels like you're kind of mining for things, but then when you have these sort of leaks, it's like, well, I guess that kind of confirms it, but then I just kind of have to wait for the story to pan out until either I'm like, yeah, I knew that already. there's so much including like teen's identity, all of this. It feels a little bit like we've buried so many different secrets along the way, and I don't know, some of them just keep popping up out of just happenstance, I guess, where it's just like, okay, well, what am I really supposed to be focusing on for this episode? We're supposed to be focusing on Alice's journey and how she didn't know how her mom died, and I guess it was by fire, and maybe we confirmed that, but it didn't feel like anything was solidly talked about or solidly confirmed on anyone's like question of their journey or their mystery. And that was the thing that kind of annoyed me, that was just like, okay, so yeah, Rio and Agatha had a relationship before this, and there's a lot of things where I can say it seems to imply that Rio had some hand in the whole situation with her son. Great, but nothing was confirmed, and it was just like, okay, but why not? Why not give us like an actual solid nugget of information when especially we've got this solve of Alice's story within like the first 10 minutes, and then the rest of it is sort of just like talking to each other about their battle scars.
What were we going to say, Nate?
I mean, I was just going to say that the end of the episode ends with a pretty solid nugget of information,
right?
Which I think will be resolved. But I do agree. Like, I think it's kind of like a lose-lose situation. They either go more into the Alice part as part of the episode, and then it becomes even more of like what Brody's talking about, where each episode follows the exact same formula.
Sure.
Or they sprinkle that in there enough to get some character movement, but not go super deep, and then also provide us with these scenes of like giving us more context about what Jennifer was talking about, and getting anecdotes from Patti LaBelle's character about her, the vampire story or whatever, right? And then getting this moment with Agatha, and also the teen stuff I think is relevant too. Him getting injured, the fact that he doesn't get attacked by the curse in the same way that the other witches do.
He just gets thrown.
And the comments that Agatha makes to Rio about, the teen being injured. I think that there's more plot stuff, progression stuff in this episode than there was in the last one, which I kind of enjoy. I think honestly, I would like this episode a lot if it wasn't for the musical part of it. Like that just kind of really took me out of it. But I think in terms of like progressing the story, as far as being almost like next, it's a 9-episode season, so 4 or 5 somewhere in there is the middle. So it does feel like at least next episode, hopefully we're gonna see another house again, but hopefully there is still more like, all right, here, have some reveals, have some, something that's gonna kind of help move the story forward further than just like, all right, one more house down, another phase of the moon or whatever.
Sure.
So, Brody, if in the next episode you see them start walking up to a house, is that when you're going to just turn it off at that point, or are you gonna play? Just keep the sports theme going. Are you going to play the game but under protest? You're going to protest the rest of it, but you're going to see it through to the end.
Well, I'll be honest with you. The best part about this show is getting to talk about it. So if I don't watch the episode, I can't complain about it.
That's what Nate said last week, is that if he doesn't watch it, that he's not going to come on and talk to us about it, which,
So I'll watch it, but I know when they I'm trying to think now before they get to the house. By the way, I watched the behind the scenes. Everything's practical. Like the forest was built on a lot, a big warehouse setting, but the houses are little miniature houses they put off in the distance so they can look like. That's why you don't really see them walk up to the house, because it's a miniature.
Yeah, I think so they can change the interior of the same set piece.
Exactly. I'm trying to figure out what era it's going to be, what TV show it's going to reference. If it's something very clever, I'll put up with the music. If it's 80s hair band music, I'll be like, at least I can enjoy the music.
Well, I'm in. Yeah, if it's
grunge, I can put up with.
Well, I guess it's also the 70s, but if they go for like a Runaways version of the song, I'll at least sit through it patiently.
Give me Adidas tracksuits and give me a Run DMC vibe on on the song or a Beastie Boys motif. I'll be, you know,
I
I don't know about that.
I can't go
I need
there
to
with
stick-
you because there's
Just
no.
a Tango hat.
Look,
Is what I'm
there are
saying.
casts of shows I would love to see give us.
My name
some
is
kind of
Agatha, and I'm here to say.
No, no.
yeah,
It's already bad enough that Agatha had a Cartman
The
moment
name of our show is Triple A.
giving Jennifer the bass to play, like just assuming that she knows how to play it.
Yeah, you're tall and dark skinned. Here's the bass.
Yeah.
It's just
Daniel Drew's like, hey, how about the tracksuit mafia? Yes, exactly. But yeah, I don't know what we're gonna get next, and I guess that's part of the fun. But then I mean, definitely. We don't need to hear the song next week. All right. I mean, I think they can sing. They want to sing a different song. That's fine. What were you going to say, Katie? Sorry.
I was just gonna say I don't think that we will. I don't think we will have. I think they know that this was a risk doing this sort of musical. I think that's why it was so short and so towards the beginning. Like they solved that storyline fairly quickly, and I feel like we're gonna see more of the generational curse or something down the line. Like something else is gonna happen with that. I feel like further down, but I don't know. I feel like they might play it safe with like I hope a solid episode next week.
Okay. So I want to do an informal poll, and I'll probably play this at the beginning of the show next week. Show of hands, who thinks we're going to hear this song again next week?
or a song. There will be
just
a song.
next week.
Oh.
No, this song next week. It's just me. All right, good. And by the way, Ivan's on my team. Give me more different versions of the song. Sorry, although he wants it. I just think we're going to get it. All right. Well, I'll be happy.
I like the OG. The OG.
I'll be happy to be wrong.
I think we'll at least get like one episode break before we get another
Same
full-on musical number.
I hope you're right. I really do. So what do we think about Patti LuPone's outbursts throughout the recent episodes where she's talking about something and not necessarily relevant and has no recollection of what's going on? I mean, is she giving a dual performance in a different series at the same time, and she's delivering her lines from the other series, and then she just kind of snaps back to it? I'll ask you first, Katie. What do you think's going on with Ms. LuPone?
Clearly a setup for a future episode. Like we're gonna find out in her episode, whatever mood phase it just seems so clear to me that like her episode is going to reveal what the hell she's talking about when she has these outbursts, and why that's kind of time jumping into the past of this. I'm not totally sure if she's having some kind of influence on the road. I don't know. I'm not really seeing that. It is interesting that each episode she's kind of talking to someone in particular, and that person just happens to be there when she's talking about them. So I don't know, but yeah, I think we're going to see it.
Our buddy Daniel Drew says, I think they're all lines from the finale, and he clarifies from her. So yeah, these could all be things that she says, in the future or possibly a future episode. And Ivan worries about those, especially for Alice.
What exactly did she say to Alice again? She said the waif or the whatever thing.
She said, am I sticky or sweet or something? Something sticky or tacky or...
I'm sorry. Are you quoting lyrics from Pour Some Sugar on Me, or are you actually remembering?
I'm hot, sticky, sweet.
From my head to my feet. Yeah, no, I know. Come on. I've been to a strip club, Brody. I know.
Well, you're old also, so you know. Guns N' Roses references from 1992, you know.
Yeah. That's not that long ago. I think Daniel and Ivan were probably both born after that, and amongst others. But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, what do we think about that aspect of her character, Nate? I want to ask each of you what you think is going on. I mean, this theory that it could be very specific dialogue we see either in the finale or in another episode. What do you think's going on with her that this isn't the first time it's happened. This is consistently the last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I think similar to Katie, I think we're going to get an episode that will explain like all of these outbursts and give them context. It seems like part of her like premonition power is her experiencing like the past or the future kind of like all at the same time. It reminds me a lot of like Slaughterhouse-5, kind of like being unstuck in time, almost like a Dr. Manhattan Watchmen thing,
Oh yeah.
but without the ability to control it. So I would assume that when we get her focused episode, that it'll either give some more context to those lines specifically, or we may see her perspective as these are happening. And I don't know. I think that it's definitely, especially with how intentional the writing has been in this show, like I'm sure that there will be a connection for all of them and it will be explained. I don't know how long that's going to be until that happens. If we're going to one house for each wish, theoretically her or Rio would be the next one, assuming Agatha is going to be the last one.
Right.
So we might find out next week, or we might get a weird twist with Rio's house, and then the Lilia one might be further towards the end. But I think it's definitely something to do with her visions and her either seeing stuff that's happened already or that will happen. So I don't know. I don't know exactly. I think it would be very cool. I always love in shows when they go back and retrace stuff that's already happened, but show you from a different perspective. I think it shows really good, thorough writing, and sometimes it can be cheesy, but I think with the show, it will be like the character itself is kind of like very mysterious. So I think it will be cool to get, more of her backstory, and then also kind of like some explanation of what these outbursts are like coming from, what she's seeing.
Yeah, I think just sort of figuring out where it all fits in, it'll be sort of interesting. I do believe that we'll very much get the payoff for all of it. And Daniel's saying either she did personally or she had friends who died like that and she was remembering. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's something that could happen, in the future of our narrative timeline. But yeah, she absolutely can be reminded of things that happened in her past. Of these theories, Mr. Brody, what do you think is going on with Patty LuPone?
Well, I definitely think she lost friends to stereotypes. She mentioned that when she first met Agatha. It's witches like you that are reasons why people think that we ride brooms and we do all these terrible
Eat
things.
children,
yeah, eat children, right? So I think she was definitely reminiscing about the friends she's lost along the way for being witches, bad people. I think being a clairvoyant, the first time we see her, she's a fortune teller. I think she can see into the future, and her mind is popping into the future and saying things like, we have to save Agatha, right? Which is what she said last week, where she's having conversations. And I think to Nate's point, we will see it from her perspective or another perspective as it happens in the future. So I think her mind is just snapping forward, and she's not realizing she snapped forward because she's old. She may be losing her ability to control that. And I think eventually we'll see her saying those things and it'll all make sense. So I agree with a couple of people here.
Remind me, what was the photo that she was looking at, or the mosaic that she was looking at right before the fire and the songs broke out? Was it a witch on fire, or was it a witch hanging, or was it a witch in the stocks? It feels like she also has such a strong connection to her Italian past that we haven't seen fully. And I'm wondering if she's also bouncing back to the past and getting stuck in different times.
Well, answering your question, that's why our great chat is always here. So it was different witch persecutions, I think, is
right.
What
but do we remember what exactly it was? Because I know that there were several different ones, and I thought it was the one that was caught on fire, or at least being lowered into the boiling pot. I didn't know if maybe that had some kind of significance to the episode at hand.
To the episode that we actually got. I can't say for sure, but I will defer to the chat as always. And I know Daniel's going to start being much busier during our show. So Ivan, you're going to have to do all the heavy lifting. He's saying it's sort of everything that we're seeing, but it's whatever it was about the image she saw. It clearly represented it, and I probably could do more note taking on this show, but there's laundry to fold.
I was
All
just
right,
gonna
you have
say.
to understand, Katie. Let's talk about sort of the obvious thing for us, which is the very ending of the episode. We'll circle back on some other things, but this, so Rio says to Agatha, "The boy isn't yours," and it begs the question: has she only started being as nice as she has, which I don't know if you want to call it nice, but more considerate than she is towards other people, like Mrs. Hart, perhaps, because she's like, "Oh, this is my kid. All right, I guess I'm going to act a little differently here," because we all have the poorly kept secret on who we think this is. That we believe that this is one of Wanda's kids, and so surprise only to Agatha. But let's talk about that big. Well, it's hard to call it a cliffhanger. It's really a big reveal to Agatha at the end of the episode, and the rest of us are like, yes, and I would like to know what comes next. I need you to appreciate that, Katie. What do you think about the ending of the episode, Katie?
I mean, I kind of felt it come. I was like, she's gonna tell her that's not her son, and they're just gonna cut to black. I don't know. And then it happened. I was like, yeah. I was just a little bit annoyed by how predictable some of this stuff was.
Sure.
I fine. Just confirming what we kind of already been talking around or guessing, I guess. Yeah, it seems clear who he is at this point.
I mean, I think so, but they could really pull a fast one on us. The greatest trick Mephisto ever pulled is convincing the world he didn't exist,
In the
and then
MCU.
also casting the same actor as a different character. Yeah, and Nate's engaging in the chat. Look at Nate. There he is. It was burning at the stake, torture in a pot, and drowning. Yes. So thank you.
And the stock.
Where'd you get such a cool cartoon of yourself, Nate? I wish I
That's
had.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
I paid an artist to make it. Don't use AI, folks.
No, I mean, I agree with that. Absolutely. And just imagine what the AI would have looked like. It wouldn't have looked like you anyway. So if you want quality work, just spend the money on it. What are we thinking about Joe Locke's mystery character, Teen, Nate?
Again, like I said last week, I think this mystery is really for not us. This is for people that are just watching the show, enjoying it, and not thinking any deeper or looking into comics or looking for connections to WandaVision or something. I was surprised that she kind of just overtly just kind of shot down what should be the running theory of the show. However, it still wasn't exactly clear. That could be interpreted in many ways. It could be her son, but she doesn't own him, if that makes sense. He could be in debt of service to something else or whatever she sold him to in exchange for the Darkhold. So there is some nuance that could be derived from it. But for me, it's just, even without the leaks, it's just he just looks like the character.
Yeah.
It's just such perfect casting, and the way that they have been setting up the Young Avengers stuff, it makes no sense for it not to be him. I'm much more interested in what Rio as a character has to do with that involvement with that issue, and also I want to know the details of this scarring that happened, of why their relationship soured and why they want to presumably kill each other. I think that's much more interesting than the identity thing. I did appreciate that they made an effort to they really we saw it last episode with Agatha trying to stopping the teen from drinking any of the wine, but also I think they really drove it home with how dismissive she is of Miss Hart's death, and wanting to just move on. And then as soon as the teen is injured,
I'm sorry,
she's
you mean saying that it was a bad draft pick? You think that is slightly dismissive, Nate? All right, I guess.
I'm just saying it served as a great contrast to when the teen later in the episode is injured and potentially dying, and she's losing her mind.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think it's good. It's good writing, and I think the reveal, I'm hoping it comes sooner rather than later, because that part is like not bringing any suspense for me. But knowing Marvel, they could wait until the after credit scene to be like, haha,
Right.
got you, fooled you.
Or Nate, if they really want to get you, it'll be in the movie tie-in after the series actually ends. That's when you'll get the real reveal. That's when you'll really know everything, after you give them your money. And I was slightly distracted trying to find the image, the artwork from the episode. This was what I was able to find. So we can take a quick look.
She was looking at one specifically, and I feel like this one on the right, is that fire? I can't really tell what's going on here.
I mean, I would say so. Let's take a look. Yeah, I mean, that's being burnt at the stake.
Or it's Phoenix.
All right, finally, we're getting a good theory here. Boy, if that's where this show goes, I'll have no complaints.
I don't know about that.
Well, yeah, I guess
Phoenix comes in singing the song.
If it's Madeline Pryor, then yeah,
that would be.
Yeah, that's probably what they would do. And Daniel's on board, so you heard it here first, folks. Next week, Phoenix. So yeah, I mean, Brody, this is basically what we're kind of all saying, and I think Nate, you summed it up best, that it's a mystery, but it's not for us. So it's kind of like an episode to keep it really current and hip for what the kids are paying attention to. It's like an episode of Columbo, where you see the murder happen in the beginning, and then you watch this idiot try and figure out what happened. But we all know. So my point is, Brody, that Agatha is Peter Falk in a dirty raincoat, trying to put together the mystery of
just one more question.
Happened to my kid.
One more thing I have to ask you about. We didn't touch on this, but she did make light of Mrs. Hart's death with the draft pick reference.
Sure.
But at the beginning, when she looked down at her body, she made a comment and said, "I didn't know you had it in you," or something to that effect, as if to imply her courage or that she had the ability to be a witch. And then she winked at Teen when Teen was like, asked her a question. She winked at him like, you know what I'm talking about, or like there was a bond there between the two of them that we have to figure out. We don't know yet what they were talking about. In terms of the ending of the show, when Rio says to her, now was the exact quote, "He's not your son," or "He's not yours"?
Not your son.
Yeah, when she says he's not your son, then that means one of two things. Either she knows who the kid is, that he's Wiccan, so she knows it's not Nicholas Scratch, or she knows that Nicholas Scratch is either alive or somewhere else, but not this kid. So she knows one of those two things or both. But we don't know which one yet. But somehow she knows that's not your son.
She says that boy isn't yours.
The boy isn't yours.
Is that what
right.
she says? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So if the boy isn't hers, then she either knows that it's Wiccan, in which case it's not hers, or she knows it's not Nicholas Scratch because she knows what happened to her son. Either she knows he's dead, or she has him in captivity, or he's in limbo, or she knows something. So she may not know where her son is, and she knows it's Wiccan, or both, or either or. But there's two things that are possible here.
And you'll have to allow me the moment, because I always make sure to bring these up on screen. Our friend Hackride chimes in. "Hello. Is this the refractory room for those who saw the season finale of Rings of Power early? No? Okay. I will see myself out. Sorry for the mess on the floor." Thank you to the great Hackride. Please head over to Hackride Studios and follow him, especially if you want to see a call-by-call history of the great Eric the Actor from the Howard Stern Show. Thank you, Hackride. As I said in the comments, you never disappoint.
If he had popped in and said, "Is this the episode about the X-Men 97 crossover?" then he would have been right.
That's true, because that's where we put out we have put out the theory, and we've tried to put out the fire, the proverbial fire. Were there sorry see, Daniel's talking to Hackride now. I thought he was talking to me, and I was like, oh no. All right, I thought he had something about the season finale of this show. They're talking about Rings of Power. Look, knowing what Amazon spent on that show, I'm glad somebody's watching it. That's I think I mentioned in the past on this show that that a friend of my wife and I has spent years of his life working on that show and moved to New Zealand and now lives in London. And I mean, it's all great for them, but just the idea that it's a show that you put this much time into, and people are like, yeah, I saw the movies. But so I hope, yeah. So you're saying you're enjoying it, Katie?
I am. I'm very much enjoying it. Yeah.
More than Agatha all along?
A little bit sometimes.
Okay. Are they singing?
Well,
Actually, yes, there is singing. There's rock singing, and she's great.
And she's saying, Daniel's saying the music is spectacular, which that doesn't seem to be what we're saying here. Sam Bibley checks in. I just got here. What's up with this mess on the floor? Talk to Hackride about that. Yes. So well, Nate, week to week, you went through Secret Invasion with me, and this is a very different feeling than that. You know what I mean? This is just like, I think you said it best. This is a show that you're not saying it's not well done. It's just not for me. Secret Invasion was a show that was not only not well done, it wasn't for anyone. I don't know who could have watched that and been like, oh my God, I can't wait to see what happens next. You know, when what's going to happen when the chick from Game of Thrones and the guy who played Bob Marley in the Bob Marley movie, are they going to fight or what? I don't remember anyone being on the edge of their seat for that show. So anyway, this is just a lot different. I'm not let down by this in the way of that show, where they have all these elements. They have what should be a great story. They have good characters. This show has good characters. That's not the point. They just don't deliver on any level on that show. This level, I'm like, it would disprove my theory though, Katie, because you really liked the show up until this week, maybe, or were they losing you week to week?
No. I really enjoyed the show. I will say that this felt a little bit fillery to me. Which if we could have longer seasons, I would be more accepting of things like that. But I was never super into Lorna Wu or Dallas Wu's story to begin with, because it felt like they didn't put enough attention on it to begin with, and bringing it to like the forefront of this episode, I was like, all right, let's do this. And if anything interesting comes up, great. But we didn't get much of her history or anything. We just got, she has a generational curse on her, which I did think was interesting.
Sure.
But then it was like, okay, and we're solved. I don't think it's solved.
I have to stop down for a moment because in nerd circles and in internet circles, these are beyond fighting words. These are like full-scale military assault words. Ivan Soto says Secret Invasion is the Boba Fett of Marvel. I mean, maybe if you're saying Book of Boba Fett, but you're talking about the character right there. Book of Boba Fett, I could probably give you.
Yes,
but
that's I think what
you're saying the character, and I think that character might be a tad overhyped, but I don't know that you're going to find a lot of people in your corner if you're comparing Secret Invasion to the character of.
No, I think he's not at the show.
Who doesn't love one of the coolest characters in Star Wars now being a fat old guy? Come on.
Hey, I didn't think Harrison Ford looked that bad in Force Awakens.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
They made him a fat old guy, but it takes place in like a couple of years after the Star Wars. It doesn't matter.
All right. So he's very quick to point out he did mean Book of Boba Fett. All right. That's a statement you can make, and people aren't going to be waiting for you outside of Comic-Con with various implements. They'll at least hear that conversation.
I have to disagree, Christian. I think the Acolyte is the Secret Invasion of Star Wars, and Boba Fett is more like the She-Hulk of.
Wow. I mean, I enjoyed She-Hulk more than any of the other shows you're saying. But
well, what would be if Acolyte is the Secret Invasion? Then not. What is the Book of Boba Fett in Marvel?
Yeah, it's not.
I just love that we're going into
even if you didn't like it from production value alone, it clears Secret Invasion easily.
I would say that production value in Book of Boba Fett is amazing. I'm not talking about the storytelling and the narrative. If you look at that show, it looked great. So
Yeah,
that's
I'm talking
already
about how-
that's
yeah, I'm
already
talking
a step up. Yeah,
I'm
that
talking
makes
about Acolyte, but
No,
Book of
I'm saying
Boba
the
Fett.
Acolyte was a terrible show. It looked great, but it was a terrible show. Secret
Yeah, but
Invasion was
Secret
a terrible
Invasion was
show
a
and it looked
terrible
bad.
show, and it looked bad.
Yes,
Okay,
I'm just saying it's the worst and the worst. Whether one's better than the other is like the worst Chinese food and the worst Italian food. You go, well, the worst Chinese food is better than the worst Italian food. They're
No.
both the worst. That's all I'm saying.
If one of them is unedible, then that one is the worst, which would be Secret Invasion. Is
But it's in its own
unedible.
category. It's its own. It's the worst Marvel.
Listen, what we're talking about here is we're comparing Sbarro to Panda Express. What's the difference? None of it's good, all right?
That's
None
my
of the
point.
shows we're talking about are particularly good shows. You can say that this one's a little bit better in that way, and some of them look very pretty. But
I'll
I
say
do
this,
understand.
I still enjoy Agatha all along.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing about this episode, and we all touched on it. You take Aubrey Plaza out of this episode, I don't know that I rewind it. And I was like, why don't you guys tell me what happened in the rest
Fair.
of it after I fell
Agreed.
asleep?
Fair. And I do want to touch on something before, we start wrapping it all up. But I thought it was really interesting. Aubrey Plaza's line, like, are you a green witch? And she's like, I am the green witch. And then she goes into
I did
demon
like that.
voice.
Yeah.
And also feels like a nice little red flag of like who she might truly be.
Elphaba.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. Nailed it. Now let's get into the Wicked musical.
Why would you bring that up? The fact that they've taken a musical and they've broken it into two parts for a film, and the first film is 2 hours and 40 minutes. Why are you bringing that up? We're trying to end the show, Brody. There's no reason to do that. There's no reason to make that movie so goddamn long, and there's no reason for Brody to bring it up. You're trying to raise my blood pressure.
No, I'm trying to get you to do a podcast about it so we can do 32 episodes breaking it down.
I've announced I'm doing an episode of my personal podcast, the Blackcast. I'm going to see Megalopolis. I am doing an episode about it. So please tune in next week. You're going to
Is
see
Megalopolis the Secret Invasion of Francis Ford Coppola movies?
Oh God.
Thank you.
No, I actually think it's the step by step of Francis Ford Coppola movies. It's the weak link in TGIF. Yeah, but in any case, I don't know. I think that there's an element of I kind of want to see where this goes. I just hope that they let me have some fun. It looks like everybody on the show is having fun. They do always say that that's a bad indication of a movie or TV show is everybody talks about how fun it was making it. Adam Sandler and all his friends, they go and they make a movie. They have so much fun making all those movies. They all have fun making them. Whether or not you have fun sitting in the audience and watching them, I'm going to let somebody else decide. That's not for me to say, because this show has no fact checking. So we're just going to go right on past it. We're going to.
You said there'd be no fact.
That was for Brody. That was for Brody.
Thank you.
But I think that I hope that I'm wrong and we don't get the song next week. And I don't care that they go into the house. I understand what Brody's talking about. If when they go in the house, it's interesting. And I haven't gotten that yet. And that's what I'm hoping. Nate, what are you hoping for in terms of them making you not regret investing 42 minutes in next week's episode?
I just hope that the next house breaks the formula up at least a little bit, and that we continue to get more like backstory of Agatha and Rio and possibly Teen, because that's really the only thing I'm actually interested in. Hopefully not a musical number. I feel pretty confident in being able to avoid that, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
What are you hoping for, Katie? For the next house? Because there's going to be a next house. I'm sorry, Brody.
There is going to be a next house, and I think if I'm correct, I think the next progression would probably be Patti LuPone's story. So I think she's got a lot of things going on with like talking about stereotypes of witches. So I think we've seen a couple of clips in some of the promo stuff where we might get some solid stereotypical witches in that episode. I think that's probably what it's going to be. I'm very curious to see what happens with Rio as well, and whether or not we're going to get a specific house for Rio or Agatha first. I think that's kind of an interesting thing, and how that all plays out. Also, why does Rio need so many bodies?
Ooh. All right. I like that. I like that question.
Necrophiliac.
No.
Well,
So, Brody, you don't want them to go into the house, but then if we work under the eventuality that they have to go into the house,
maybe they go in the backyard. Go in the house, but I would like someone to die. And I would like
shit.
Okay.
Who?
And
All
I would
right.
like I think Jen. I no more spells and potions. The MacGruber thing's got to go. But she's got a lot of secrets, and she has a history with Agatha, so I need her around. So maybe Wu, is that her name? Wu, the one who was in this week's episode. She and her mom. Yeah,
Her name's
Alice.
Alice. Yeah.
Yeah, Alice. She can go. She can go. We saw her story. She didn't really do much but talk in the background. She can go. I want to get more information on the sigil, because they did reference that, and they said it goes away when it's no longer needed. So I would like that to, let's get to that point.
Do we think that's linked to the Wanda stuff? Like after Wanda put the
No, I think his identity is being kept a secret for a purpose.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I was just wondering if because Wanda cursed her essentially at the very end of WandaVision, if that is some kind of residual effect. No,
he wasn't alive though. I mean, he certainly wasn't a team.
I think it's because of Wanda, but I don't think it's because of the curse that Wanda put on Agatha. I think it's something else related to the character.
Right. I think that's really the remaining mystery about it. We all feel like we know who he is. We understand that that's why he can't say what his name is, but who cast the spell, that's the important thing. Daniel Drew has some important reminder for us. 5 episodes left.
Well, it's a lot of houses.
That does sound like a lot. He's talking about the sigil. M for Maximoff, Mephisto, or Mordo. I will borrow from the Who Shot Mr. Burns cliffhanger from The Simpsons, that it was actually upside down and the M is actually a W and it's Wanda. I'm just putting that out there, but that's the same answer as Maximoff. And something very important from the great Jake Hudson. He liked and shared. Yeah, please always like, subscribe to, if you're watching here on Geekscape, please check it out. And I think just to put a bow on what we were talking about earlier, Daniel Drew says Secret Invasion is the worst content I've ever watched. It's levels below everything else I've ever watched, even the things I don't like. Daniel, next week I'm going to come with a list of things that are actually shockingly worse than Secret Invasion, but they're things that shouldn't be better than Secret Invasion. I don't have the time to do it now.
It's going to be a full review of Unfrosted.
That's a perfect example.
Don't be mean.
Yeah. Well,
I was in it.
It wasn't that. It was better than. I mean, it could have been worse. It wasn't. It wasn't Secret Invasion bad.
Okay. Well,
Megalopolis might be.
I would say Secret Invasion is better than Madam Web, except for the fact that Madam Web had the decency to only be like 90 minutes. But anyway, look, we'll get to all of that next week. But I do have an alert for people in Southern California, or will be in Southern California this weekend. We'll be doing a Geekscape Book Club live panel at LA Comic-Con on Saturday in room 407, 2 to 2:50. So we're going to start promptly and end earlier than you think. I can only talk for 50 minutes. They'll probably just cut my mic, and that's probably what we'll have to do. But we'll be talking about Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, Deadpool versus the Marvel Universe, and of course the film Deadpool and Wolverine. I almost gave Wolverine top billing there, which, by the way, is now available for digital purchase in your home if you want to watch it. I hear there's a lot of bonus material. I'm going to have to dive in and figure out which bonus material I most need because it's very difficult for me to turn down physical media. But it is available for any of you who didn't see it or maybe you want to see it again. You can now purchase it in home. But we do hope that we see everyone on Saturday. The panel will feature everyone you see on screen right now. And then in that square down there where you see David Brody, just imagine Eric Connor sitting right there. And,
or Jordan.
And Jordan Morris will also be there. He was he asked onto a panel, and I was happy to include him. So we do hope to see everybody there. I'm doing my best to make sure that we'll be able to share that panel with everyone on Geekscape after the con. But I just don't want to promise it, just in case something goes wrong. Like 2 years ago when it only recorded the first half of the panel. But efforts will be made to prevent that. But we'll be back next week at the same time, same witch channel. But until then, Katie, where can people find you?
Well, you can always find me at ElSassyPants, ElSassy, sometimes with a Z at the end. You can also always find me at the Pack Theater with the House Team Faux Pas. We had a great show last night. We're having another great show on the 16th, so come on out if you're local. And also go to LA Comic-Con. Check out the Geekscape Book Club. You'll see me there. Yeah! That's where you find me.
Yeah. Nate, other than at LA Comic-Con on Saturday, 2 p.m. in room 407, where else can people find you, Nate?
Well, right outside room 407 at 3 o'clock, I will be on LA Comic-Con. You can find me on the internet at all the places where you find people at Dog Like Nate.
And David Brody, if people have the question of where could I possibly go to get more Brooklyn Boys in my life, where would they go to do that?
Well, you can go to your favorite app or source for podcasts and look for the Brooklyn Boys podcast. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at David Brody. And according to Christian, you could find me at 4:30 for the early bird special having dinner tonight.
Yeah, look, you're going to try and tell me you haven't watched The Partridge Family. All right. I mean, that's
I have. I just wasn't 15 years old when it came out.
No, I didn't say you had a David Cassidy poster on your wall.
No, I had a Sean Cassidy poster. That was my year.
Oh my God.
And by the way, there are definitely days where dinner at 4:30 doesn't sound so bad. So I've got no knock on that. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ. Please subscribe to my personal podcast, The Blackcast. Brody and I will be talking about Jason Reitman's film Saturday Night, about the night of the first Saturday Night Live, and some alternative history from that night, but whether or not it was entertaining, we'll talk about that in the near future. And yes, Megalopolis, and yes, Joker 2. So a lot of that content will be over there on the Blackcast, BLADTCAST. And of course, you can always find me Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the Who Are These Podcasts YouTube channel for Who Are These Broadcasters. And that is also available wherever you get your audio podcasts. That's all the time we have for now. But we're going to head off on the Witch's Road. But we'll veer off into the house that is the Marvel Movie Talk house next week, same time, same channel. Until then, as the great Stan Lee would say, Excelsior!